Hello, Dr. Kate here. Self-mastery for success. For women entrepreneurs who want to run their business instead of having it run you. Today we're talking about overwhelm. We're following a series this week. And today we're going to cover another aspect of what causes overwhelm. And I call it being split off. And what that means is when you're coping with life in a way that you're constantly and consistently showing up in order to manage a stressful time in your life by having to present as strong and feeling fine and working hard when internally you're feeling small. You're feeling tired, you're feeling emotional, you're feeling weak, vulnerable. And when you consistently show up in what we would call an exterior or a mask of only one part of you, and you are not attending to the other parts of you, I call this being split off. And this leads to overwhelm because we are living out a way of being that is disregarding a huge part of us. And that creates a dissonance, we could say. It creates a big energy drain. It creates a stress on our system. And this stress will show up as anxiety. It will show up possibly as depression. It will show up as a sense of being in a state of overwhelm, which makes it really difficult to cope, right? We've all been there. We all can experience this. As women in business, it's a pretty common thing for us to have to put on our game face, but you want to learn how to attend to the other parts of you when you get home. And if you live in a difficult situation at home, you can really live a sense of being split by feeling very powerful, very, very capable, very successful at business. And then you go home, and if you're in a very stressful or dysfunctional relationship, that can create a split that makes us feel like we have to really hold those two worlds very apart. And that in itself creates an internal state of overwhelm. So this is not something unique, right? Most of us do this on some level. But when we do it, like I said, consistently and in a pretty severe fashion, it will catch up with us. Whether it looks like I'm burned out or I'm having health issues or I suddenly can't focus at work, or whatever it might look like, but it's going to be some sort of wake-up call. And that's okay. Like, we can do it that way, or we can start to learn how to be attentive, how to learn how to take care of ourselves in a way that allows us to work with all the aspects of what's going on for us, so that it isn't so split off, so it isn't creating this incredible tension and stress. And that allows us to start being proactive, and from that place, we can handle what's going on in our lives instead of like it just suddenly becomes way, way too much. And I certainly lived that many, many years of feeling like it was all just too much. And I felt overwhelmed most of the time and didn't quite know how to bridge that for different levels of experience that were happening, raising small children, running my business. And I experienced that sense of like, it was just all too much. And from that place, it's very painful and very isolating, and there were a number of contributing factors. What I've learned is that it's very possible to learn how to bridge that gap between how we need to show up in our life strong and how we can attend to the parts of us that are vulnerable, that are feeling emotional, that are, addressing our needs that we really do have and not just disregarding them for others, and learning to do that in a way that's very loving, that's very self-supporting, and creates a sustainability in our lives, right? Not that life still doesn't have its ups and downs, because it always will, but that there's a sense of like, I can get up the next day and I can face the day and I can gather my resources again and figure out how I'm going to do what I need to do for myself. Thank you, Julie. Thumbs up to you. So what's one step, what's one tip about if we have this experience of being split off? The first tip is really just to start to notice it. It's to start to notice how that split is creating a lot of stress internally in your body, in your mind, and in your life, and be willing to start recognizing how that's impacting you. That's really the first tip to start to make any change around feeling split off like that. And second is to access some resources so that people who know how to work with that, who have worked with that, whether it's a coach or a therapist or, other kinds of practitioners, those are things that can help us start to build more self-connection to create some change slowly. Okay? Because this is not a pattern that we just change in a second, because there's reasons that we've learned to be split off. There's reasons we've needed to cope that way. So as an empowerment coach, or what I call transformational psychologist work that I do in mentoring women, I help them start to build more of a connection with themselves, to identify when that's happening, to have more understanding and insight about why that's happening, and then to slowly work with how to have different ways of taking care of yourself, right? And that's our opportunity as human beings, but especially as women, because it really is an important time right now to start learning, I would say, more feminine ways of coping. Not to be like it's a gender issue, but more feminine, meaning our inherent feminine principles around being connected in ourselves, more intuitive, more willing to be receptive in ourselves. And part of the overwhelm, at least in my life, was really over developing that masculine and being like, I'm strong and I can handle it all and I can do it all. And that was part of what split me off. And that was just a way of coping as a result of my family dynamic. So there's all kinds of reasons we do it, and having some intuition and awareness around that really helps us start to make new choices. Because we do have a lot of resources inside of us that we don't know are there, that we can access, that can support us, that can help us show up and take care of ourselves in a different way. So if you're having overwhelm, if you know someone who's having overwhelm, see how you can support them to look at how to be more conscious of that, how they want to access resources, and know that you don't have to live your life that way, because it's so not fun. It is like really, really like living on the edge to me. Like I always imagined when I felt like that, felt like I was hanging by a cliff by my fingernails. Like it's a really horrible way to live. So I invite you to share with me if you have some experience with that, what you do to help yourself with overwhelm, and feel free to reach out to me through my website if you want to have a discussion about it. I'm available. I do offer some complimentary calls a few times a week, so I'm happy to be available. And let's definitely do this different, because overwhelm is gotta go. It's time for more presence, awareness, and choice about how we show up. All right, blessings and light and love to y'all. Bye.